you had help from the Holy Spirit, or what you perceived as the Holy Spirit. And then I get curious. Why do you think you got that comfort and other people don't, perhaps? Now, we wouldn't know, would we, when people die and they don't come back, if God is with them. Uh, but my my thought is that a lot of people are dying without having that voice or someone being there with them. And I'm wondering if that has perhaps something to do with you praying uh, for help in the beginning, or if this is also predestined. If you think that your experience was predestined, and that perhaps on a soul level you agreed on, if I'm going to go through this, I will need to have help. Do you have any reflections around why you got the support from God, basically?
That's a very good question, Yannicka. And this is what my reflection is. This is what I believe. I am not the only one that gets comfort from the Holy Spirit as we die. I am no one special. No matter what, there is nothing about me that is more special than anybody else in this world. The only difference is I went through the process of death, not just having, a lot of people have an NDE and they talk about the afterlife, what they saw after when they went to heaven. Not too many people go through death itself, walk through death, that encounter, and come back and talk about it. And here I am. I went through it, and as horrific as it was, I was not alone. The Comforter was there with me, but the comfort will be with I believe the Comforter will reveal himself to everybody, regardless what religion, whatever it is, and will comfort them in whatever way of death they're gonna be going through. That's why a lot of parents who lost a child to a horrific method of death, and they find a lot of comfort when they hear my story, because they relived that death and horrific method the child went through, and they have guilt and they are tortured by the guilt, by not being there, by their child suffering. The child was anxious, maybe the child was terrified and they were not there for them. All these things we relive or we reimagine are not true. Their child was comforted by the Comforter. I am no one special. Why would he comfort me? Who am I? And not comfort other people. He doesn't bring everybody back. Okay, so I came back. There's a mission. There is something. He said, you're going to be my ambassador. It wasn't Jesus that said I'll be his ambassador. It wasn't God. It was the Holy Spirit that is totally ignored, that I ignored. And I'm going to be his ambassador. And in the Bible, it said, Jesus said he's going away. He's sending us the Comforter who's going to be with us. He's not going to leave us as orphanage. He's our counselor. So he gave us that. It's a spirit. It's a piece of him. Some people, like a lot of people, don't know what the Holy Spirit is. It's a spirit. It's a spirit of goodness and love. And I feel it's a piece of him who he gave to us. Now, he gave to us throughout our life. We ignore it. Most of us do. I can never ignore it. He's a part of my life. But especially on our deathbed, he's going to talk to you. And I know that people on their deathbed, if they've listened to my interviews, they may remember me and say, oh my, this woman said that. He will reveal himself. He will comfort. We don't die alone. We don't die alone. We have this beautiful comforter power out there that counsels, he coached me throughout every step until I took my last breath. Why would he do that with me? Who the heck am I? Nothing, nobody compared to others. Everyone is a child of God, regardless what religion, what belief. We're all made equal. We're all children of the Creator, and He does not prefer one over the other. No one prays harder than the other. He loves us all, and we all have journeys, but He comforts us all, especially on our deathbed. He will reveal Himself. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it resonates, and there's so much to this story, and I think people would need to read the book to get all the details. But what and I did want to mention also that I find it interesting that of course God is all knowing, but He knew what would happen, or it or she or the power knew what would happen, so it seemed like this was also predestined, which I think is interesting.
Right.
uh, but I do want to ask, I didn't quite understand why you became paralyzed.
Mm.
Why did you die, actually? Like, yeah. And
Yeah.
what happened to Sam? Uh, because something must have happened since you are safe to share this message today.
Yes. So a lot of things happened after I came back. You can imagine the police was called. I had no signs of being paralyzed. The paramedic said she's as strong as a horse. They didn't know what to do with me. He he was a brilliant sociopath. He was like crying. And then I was accused of, she must be having a nervous breakdown. And they rushed me to a mental hospital rather than arresting him. Now I'm in a mental hospital. They take my daughter away from me because guess what? I walk around the house naked, and like chaos just happened everywhere. And Paul, who had fought me for custody all these years, this was the perfect thing. She went to mental hospital, walked naked. I can take my daughter back. So he hit me below the belt when I needed him the most. Sam pretended that he really cared and loved me, and there was no signs until I went. I did a brain scan to see did I get a stroke. There was nothing. I did a heart scan to see if I had a heart attack. My heart was perfect. Then my lawyer said, go get a forensic hair analysis, which I did. And that was done 3 months after my incident. And let me read to you the toxologist report or doctor's report after the lab came back. And he said, I have received lab reports which indicate very high amounts of several heavy metals on her hair analysis, consistent with toxicity, possibly induced by poisoning. These abnormalities include mercury level, which is 60 times the reporting limit, selenium, 69 times the limit, antimony, 49 times the limit, lead, 280 times the limit, bismuth, 40 times the limit, but most disturbing, barium at 2,750 times the limit. The symptoms she described, which were present at the time of her psychiatric hospitalization in January and thought to be psychotic in nature, were consistent with toxicity due to barium or perhaps mercury. So he was poisoning me slowly. And when I wanted to go to Egypt, he must have felt he needed to finish me off that night because he's running out of time. And I believe he put the rest of the poison in the rice that night, which caused me to be paralyzed. And then he was trying to finish me off. I didn't die, so he didn't know what to do with me. And he was trying to either put me in the bathtub and with the Xanax, showing that I probably overdosed. The or the raping, sorry, that is not lovemaking. The raping was to show that we were intimate in the morning.
Hmm.
So it's just, he was setting the murder scene. And that is why I did dedicate my book to all the souls who've been murdered by a loved one and their voices were never heard. Because so many people get murdered like that, so many. And they get away with it. And they don't come back. But I'm their voice to show that you don't just drown in a bathtub. The way I reflex, like my mouth water, I believe you can't just drown in a bathtub. Somebody has to be pushing your head down, because naturally you open your mouth, you grasp for air. You don't just, So there's many stories out there like mine.
To watch the full video, click the link below, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel.